what do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo, presented as always by Pure Options Craft Cannabis. Swing by any Pure Options location in Michigan to enter to win $1,000. The drawing on April 8th. You can download the app, swing by pureoptions.com to find the location nearest you. They've got great deals there. March Madness bundles, great stuff at Pure Options. The transfer portal is providing angst for you these days. Pure Options is the solution. Go to pureoptions.com. And our Wednesday afternoon show brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar. They've got a new drink menu. Go to caskandcompany.com. You can check that out, or just swing on by just north of Frandor near the East Lansing border on East Saginaw in Lansing. I know several of our listeners went to one even, I think, ducked out of work. We're not going to give any names, of course, to go to Front 43 and Cask & Company to watch the NCAA tournament, to watch Michigan State in the NCAA tournament. We appreciate you, of course, supporting our sponsors. I don't know. Well, yeah, I'm not going to give names away. There were a couple, but yeah, it's an incredible place. Underrated patio season starting, although it doesn't feel like it today. Good place to watch the Final Four, of course. Great date night as well. Front 43 and Cask & Company. How you doing, brother?
Graham.
What's up, man? We finally get to the bottom of Solari Gate, of Walkaway Solari.
Yeah, we've got
between Windsor on today, bookended between you and frickin' Windsor. I'm like Team Solari on this whole thing.
Well, Windsor and I wanted to have a conversation without being interrupted, so we thought we'd have him on the show.
It's got to be so hard for Solari because you guys are both, you and Windsor are so long-winded and slow talking that I have over the years have been able to kind of figure out when you're going to end. But I couldn't imagine if I was in the middle of 2 Graham couches. Like, how in the hell am I going to ever? Yeah. And it's just like, Solari's a little shorter, so it's just like he's like doing the tennis match between you guys. And even Michigan fan Jordan saw it, and he was like, dude, what happened with Solari walking off? I'm like, did you watch it? He's like, no, absolutely not. But it was interesting. So I'm like, I had to go through it and watch it. Like, what is all of this,
No, we'll get into it. It's fun. Yeah. We have a good time with. Yeah, no, there are 3 long-winded. Solari is long-winded too. So we'll put all 3 of us in that category.
Just 2 old windbags just in the middle. Poor Solari just wants a word in. He's got something important he wants to say. Oh God, I love you guys, man.
Well, I think it's gonna be a good show. Windsor was along for the ride for the Big Ten tournament, both NCAA tournament sites. Spent a lot of time together, a lot of time talking MSU hoops, and so I,
now that the sky is falling.
Yeah, have him on, and we'll dig into it here a little bit. I do, and then we're gonna have Harry on and pick the Final Four, and then we'll get to at the end the leftover Twitter or our hot takes that we did not listener hot takes that we did not get to yesterday. So if you want to hear that, stay with us, and if you had one that you didn't hear,
sorry, David Jackson, we're gonna get to yours. I swear to God.
And there are a few. The only ones that were cut were ones that were like
ass.
Well, no, they're just no longer relevant. It's like, Tre Holloman's going to be the best Spartan next year. Like, that one didn't
so yours are out too?
Well,
that column gone?
Those are all.
He would run through a brick wall for anyone, and I would be highly surprised if he left.
Yeah, those are all good.
Breaking news, Tre Hollman.
I was glad to wake up today not to more news like that. Who knows? It could happen. It could happen during the show. The more I do think it through, like, if you're Tre Holloman, and you want to spend one season maximizing your value as a primary point guard, playing 32-plus minutes, that's understandable, too. I didn't see it coming. I'm not going to pretend that. I'm not going to pretend I would make the same decision. I think he has a really good thing going at Michigan State, and I think he has, I think there's value in, like, being a guy who could come back as a legend forever. But you also have one more year of college basketball, and you should spend that how.
But the other 2 guys that did announce, Garrick Norman and Xavier Booker, make more sense when you hear Tre Holloman. Like, things you just mentioned, you're like, what's going on here?
Correct. So we'll get into that here with Sean. You want to get Sean on the phone, and and we will have that conversation without Chris in the middle of us. A reminder, and I just brought up Front 43 and Cask and Company. Outstanding happy hour specials. Great place to go watch the Final Four. Be it Saturday night, Monday night. The Tigers as they come back from their West Coast trip. If you've never been there, I'm telling you right now, the TV setup's tremendous. The menu is amazing. I love it's a combination of like modern Asian American. They've got flatbreads, but they've got incredible sushi. I love the Big Island Bowl, and anyway, I think you will absolutely love it. Front 43 and Cask and Company. You can go to caskandcompany.com to create a reservation, and that's a good thing to do, especially Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There was a Tuesday night recently where they're pretty busy, so they do well, but it's worth it. Caskandcompany.com to make a reservation. Very pleased now to be joined by somebody I got to spend a lot of time with over the last few weeks. Racked up a couple bills at expensive restaurants, as only Sean will take you to. Shawn Windsor from the Detroit Free Press. Sean, how you doing, man?
Not too bad. It's good to be back with you, Grant. By the way, just for the record, we go to plenty of dives too.
We do,
and even diners. Yeah,
we go to lots of places. So the challenge with Sean when you're traveling with Sean is that there are other games on. So sometimes you finish your work, you want to go see the other games, and Sean has this off the beaten path place 10 miles away that doesn't have any TVs, but it's got this incredible appetizer that everybody has to try. So that's where we should go. That's the only challenge. But I did go that one night. We skipped, and it was me, you, and Couch in the Room show legend Los, the three of us having dinner together. So people will appreciate that. It was, and that was the best. That was the best meal of the trip, by the way. Was it Optimist? It was called, which is ironic for taking Los with us. Yeah. But that was tremendous. Well, we were just joking. We wanted to have a conversation, the two of us, without Solari interrupting. So we thought we'd have you on to. I will. People want to know, the walk off in the video we did. Chris was not actually angry. He came back in a great mood from that. He was not. I did not know that he wasn't angry. When he originally left, I thought, he's actually angry. Graham. We're gonna have an unhappy Chris to deal with. But he was not. He was not upset.
Well, that's when I told him to listen for the period.
Yes.
Or wait for the period.
Yeah, that was it.
I think that's. Yeah, no, it's all in good fun. And Chris, I think he's sandwiched between the two of us. Big. I'll say hulking guys. How about that? That's a nice way to put it. And maybe he just feels like he's got to get his words in, I guess. Right? Well, we're going to be generous here.
Well, and Jason just brought up we are also a little bit long-winded, the two of us. So I can imagine being in the middle of us would be a challenge as well. Let's talk some MSU basketball, and we'll start here. Did the Tre Holloman news yesterday? How much did that surprise you?
I mean, a little bit, just because of clearly how much he liked Michigan State, how distraught he was in the locker room, how much he seems to have enjoyed his time there, talked about the brotherhood, the chemistry, all of that sort of thing. But if you think about it, it's not really that surprising at all. I'm not sure he's an NBA player. Who knows? Maybe, I guess you can never say never, right? And maybe he can go make some money professionally. But if you think about the kind of player he is and the options and where the landscape is right now, it's really not that surprising. He's going to go. I don't know that he'll go where the highest bidder is, but he's certainly going to go try to get as much as he can in a place that he reasonably wants to be. And you can't really blame him. I mean, for the money that's out there, you think about what A.J. Hoggard got last year, ended up at Vanderbilt, right? If he gets close to that or maybe even a little more, we'll see. That's life-changing money. It's maybe not the kind of money that'll set you up the rest of your life, but it'll certainly set you up through a good chunk of your 20s.
It gives you a nest egg. There's no question about it. And what's interesting, and I've been thinking about this more and more, because I clearly missed it, but there were signs. Like, for example, every conversation I had with him in the final 2 weeks, it was like sentimental. Like, at one point he was like telling me how much he enjoyed our conversations over the time, and like, I thought we had another year of it. I didn't think anything of it. But, he was sort of saying goodbye without – I think he knew that he was potentially going to be done. And obviously, I don't know that it's a done deal. And Michigan State could make it clear how much they want him, and financially that could make sense to come back. And who knows? But you also think about just like the idea of strength in numbers, right? And the idea of having all those guards, and I don't know that that's always going to work as a 2-year deal. And if you want to be a point guard who's playing a lot of minutes a game, and you want to maximize your value, and you got 1 year left to do it, and you haven't been one of the highest paid guys on the roster, you start to put the pieces together, and you can see why he'd want to do it. And the other thing is, I think we're just going to have to get used to the idea of loyalty is not necessarily a 4-year thing. Like, he gave 3 years to MSU, 3 years where he gave everything to MSU. And he didn't leave when a lot of people thought he'd leave after his freshman year, when they were bringing in Jeremy Fears and all those guys, and he stuck it out and got them to Elite Eight, helped them get a Big Ten title, all that stuff. And I think he still loves MSU. I think those two things can be separate in today's world, and I think that's something that people are just going to have to get a little bit used to.
No question. It's interesting. Hogard. Speaking of Hogard, he was back in, where was he? Cleveland.
Might have been Atlanta too. Atlanta, I thought, right?
Maybe it was Atlanta. He was back, and so how he left, right? I mean, it was kind of a mutual decision with him. There's not going to be any of that with Holloman. He's going to be welcome back the rest of his life, right? For what he just gave, and the points you make are really good. The way he stuck around after his freshman year, and we can say it's about the money, and of course it's about the money, but it's also about the money in the sense that he probably wanted a little bit more clock, right? And maybe he wants to be the point guard somewhere. And I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you do, but who knows at this point? Is Jace Richardson going to come back or not? Can he get a guarantee from Tom Izzo that he's not going to go in the portal and recruit over him? You know what I mean? Look what happened. Look what happened in Michigan. Look what Dusty May's doing, right? Trey Donaldson knew that Trey McKinney was coming in, the high school, Mr. Basketball, the great prospect from this state. But did he know he was going to go get Elliot Cadeau from North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Holloman's looking around. I'm not saying that Izzo's going to run the program the same way that Dusty May is. I don't think he will. But so there's some other factors there too, right? What kind of guarantees can you get or not get?
Yeah, and I don't know if he'll do this, but you could always go back home to Minnesota and be, in your hometown, and for a first-year coach in a program that's trying to revitalize itself, and he could wind up anywhere. But that's because Minnesota has not had the greatest NIL budget to this point. But you get a new coach, you might get some new juice. There's certainly an opening there. That it could be something that he wants to do as well. Let's talk about the run a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add real quickly. I was told a couple of weeks ago the staff knew that they had several players who had been being recruited, before the portal opened, right? That's just kind of – so I'm sure Holloman's not the only one who's had communications with agents.
I think a lot of these guys are getting – these guys are getting offered money. They're getting offered a fair bit. And I'm actually, the way yesterday began, I'm a little surprised nobody else has entered the portal, just because that's the way it is everywhere, and the money is flowing. So, and the offers, and whether it's all legitimate everywhere in terms of what you're going to get, the what's being thrown around to these kids, I think is quite a bit.
Yeah, and you made the good point. I'm sure you talked about this in your show. You made the good point in one of your pieces that with the revenue sharing coming, right, and eventually some form of contract is gonna come. I don't know if it'll be this year or not. It probably will take a little bit longer, but some of the money may dry up at some point. So go get it while you can, right?
Yeah, I think the hard part for people is going to be and I totally agree with that. And I think right now the schools are even thinking that way. There are schools that don't know if they're in men's basketball specifically, if they're going to have the funds they're going to have eventually once revenue sharing is there. And so this is a year to put it together. I think what's hard for fans with a guy like Holloman is he was a guy they connected to, and it kind of connected to in the way you used to connect to players. And that's the whole foundation of college athletics is built on this connection with fans that is deep and meaningful and emotional. And when every time there's something like this, it chips away at a little of that. And I really do question a couple decades from now how much of that will be left, and because of that, how much money will actually be there. Like, will people be as invested in these sports if they're not, if they don't have the common bond with players and they don't, some of the loyalty was always a little bit transactional, and I think it was probably overstated, but there are a lot of guys who played at schools and are grateful they played 2, 3, 4 years someplace and have these emotional connections later on, and they feel that kinship with fans. And I think I think Holloman represented that to a lot of fans. I think that's the hard part with him specifically. I don't think Holloman, the player, he's a good player, can play either guard position, can guard, that's not an easy player to replace, has a lot of sweat equity. But the Holloman, the player, is almost easier to replace than Holloman, the symbol, and the sort of the soul of the program in a lot of ways.
No question. I just feel, look, to me, as long as there is some kind of commitment that comes out of this, and it's going to have to be some kind of contract, right?
Yeah.
So that the players that are not quite good enough to go to the NBA after a year, because that's still the case, and that's been the case for a long time. And college basketball adjusted to that, right? The teams that have won championships, by and large, when's the last time a team that won Duke might be about to do it right now, but Duke was actually the last team to do it. The year they beat Michigan State in the Final Four, what year is that, 15? So that's 10 years ago. So college, the game adjusted from there. Krzyzewski won. He also had some really good veterans on that team, but primarily his best players were freshmen. But over the next decade, the teams that were winning were guys that were 3- and 4-year late first round, early second round pros, right?
Yeah.
Weren't good enough to go to that first year. And that was new. And, the college adjusted. And now it's going to have to adjust again. And as long as they find and figure out a system, we keep saying, hey, it's like the pros. Well, it's not quite like the pros yet because the pros are committed. Maybe the handful of very best players in the NBA can force their way out of a contract at any point. Kevin Durant, LeBron, whatever. But by and large, you sign Malik Beasley is not a good example. He signed a 1-year deal. But Tobias Harris signed a 2-year deal. He's here in Detroit for 2 years, for better and for worse. And that's what's going to have to happen at some point. And I think as long as it does, the connection, I think, will be fine.
Let's talk about the run and the end of it. It was an incredible run. I think they maximized who they were as well as any team. If they had played that, like, as I think back through the game and I watch back through that Auburn game, and there is, a moment that they probably should have called a timeout a little bit earlier during that initial run. They obviously didn't shoot well, even though it was over great length that had a lot to do with that. There are moments here and there. I'm wondering, as you thought back through the game, if they had played that 10 times, how many times could have Michigan State gotten to a Final Four?
2.
Yeah.
Right? How many times are they going to shoot? This is the other thing to think about, too. I was talking about this with a basketball person the other day. If you think about this Michigan State team and the teams that are left, so let's just say going into the Auburn game, to win what was this team going to have to do to win the national championship? They were basically going to have to shoot above their level for 3 games, or shoot above their level for 2 games and hope that Florida or Duke, I'm just assuming it's going to be Duke in the national title game, maybe I shouldn't make that assumption, would have a shoot below their level and just kind of have an off day, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like Auburn looked like against Michigan in the first half when they were just, right? And they had not played all that well going into the tournament. Well, they found their level in the second half against Michigan, and that carried over against Michigan State. So Michigan State was going to need the other team to do something they don't normally do, and Michigan State was going to have to do something a little bit above what they do. They were going to have to make a bunch of – those shots were contested by and large. I know the one possession where they had 3 or 4 looks. A couple of those were fairly open, really open on 1 or 2, but they were going to have to just that's what it was going to take, right, Graham? They were going to have to make contested shots. 6'1", 6'2" guards making contested shots over 6'5" and 6'6" guards that were closing out on them, and older, by the way, right? They started 5 seniors. Broom, I think, was at 22, was the youngest guy in that team.
Yeah.
Don't discount that either.
They had the freshman guard, but otherwise, yeah, a very old team. Yeah, Pettiford or whatever. Yeah, no. So looking forward is like Michigan State clearly has to take another step in like Izzo. I think fulfilled his promise, the whole trying promise, get him back. I mean, look, they won the Big Ten by 3 games, incredible season. And nobody would debate that. And they get to an Elite Eight. They felt like they maximized who they were. They won games that looked like they were. The identity of this team, I think, will be appreciated for a long time. The question of whether they can get back to Final Fours and compete to win them, like this is a historic Final Four in a sense that I don't know that every Final Four, and frankly it isn't because we've seen other Final Fours. Most Final Fours aren't this good, I don't think. The reason the 1 seeds are all there is because they are legitimately the top 4 seeds in the country. But you're always going to have about 2 of these teams, even if you don't have 4 of them. So to win a national title, even if you're on the other side of the bracket, you're going to have to get past somebody of that caliber. And that's not quite where Michigan State was. And you have a roster where I think there are guys, Jace Richardson's obviously a huge part of, if he comes back, that changes how they're seen next year, who they can be. But I do think like Jeremy Fears Jr. and Cohen Carr and Jackson Kohler, those 3 specifically, based on what we've seen and their paths and everything, have rooms to really elevate next year and be much better players than they are. And it could be, and that would make a difference. How much more do they need, and how far away are they from being able to be at that level?
Well, to me, it really depends on the guys you just mentioned. I mean, and by the way, to your point about every year, last year is a good example. There weren't 4 teams like this, but there were 2. Yeah. There was one. I mean, Connecticut a year ago was probably better than anybody in the tournament this year, right? Just a combination of offense and defense. I mean, maybe Duke. But Purdue was really, really good last year. Matt Painter had a title-worthy team and that would have won it all in a lot of seasons, but ran into one of the most dominant teams in recent memory. Not quite North Carolina 2009, but just to show your point, that was last year. So how are they gonna beat? Maybe there's not quite a Connecticut team every year, but there's somebody close. I mean, Duke is close. I would say this year, Florida, I know they're really talented inside out, all that sort of stuff. So I think, look, if Colin Carr, and we're not talking about shooting the 3 ball like, like Malik Beasley to drop his name again or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. But if he can consistently make, 14-footers, the occasional 3, to me, improving the ball skill a little bit, the handle, tightening that up a little bit so he can get to the rim, right? We don't talk about, we always just talk about his shot, but what if that handle tightens up a little bit and he starts getting into the rim more and then using what he's got? Because I think he became a better finisher down the stretch and showed even a Euro step at one point. And you see those kind of parts of his game. So to me, if he takes a leap, that solves a lot right there, because then you got a 2-way wing, which they really, frankly, Fiddler, was a okay, solid. How about, let's just say, solid version of that. And he was important in this run, and he made plays in the tournament, and helped, especially in the first two rounds. So to me, it starts with Cohen Carr. Then you give Fears. Does he develop? You look at Fears. Does he develop that shot? Again, he doesn't have to become a knockdown 3-point shooter, but he's got to be able to at least take them and make them at a decent enough clip that they're not sagging off so much. I mean, you saw the way the defense has shifted this last few weeks, right?
No doubt, and he's got to be.
An issue.
Yeah, it's the floaters, and if he can get, his percentage was fine from 3, but it was all because they were, he's being left open. If he's got to be somebody who can make him with greater volume, make him in rhythm when the ball comes around to him. Hit floaters in the lane. And I think some of that, obviously he didn't get an offseason last year. So I think Izzo is right when he talks about the offseason that Fears could have and the impact that could have. I'm curious to see that. And I think what we saw from Kohler the other day is sort of what the dream has to be for him in terms of a guy who's a real stretch 4 and then gets that confidence back with his inside game because he's got all the footwork and becomes a real threat and a problem for teams. I think those 3 guys. I mean, and obviously, if you add Jace Richardson to that, you've got an All-American caliber player, and that may be everything. And I don't know whether that'll happen or not. But those 3 guys to me are internally, without adding in the transfer portal. I think they've got 2 interesting freshmen. One who I think will be at least one will be ready to contribute right away. Is more of a 3-4 man. those three have a chance to elevate themselves, and in doing that, elevate the team quite a bit. And one of the things, Sean, we talk about the length of these guys and how, I don't think you need to match their length. Like, I think back to Michigan State's national championship team, it was like a 6'7", 6'8" center in Andre Hudson, and a 6'9" power forward in A.J. Granger. But they knew how to beat those teams because they had faced them enough, and they were tough enough, and they had the shooters, and they had the other components. Like, I don't think you have to have the length, but you have to know how to be able to counter it, and you have to be used to it. And I don't think this Michigan State team was used to it because there was nobody in the Big Ten who really presented that to them this year.
No, they weren't. You think about that, if you want to go all the way back to that team. I mean, Mateen Cleaves may not have been long, but he was thick.
Yeah.
And strong and so good with the ball. And Charlie Bell was just a menace, right? And he was, 6'3"? I don't know if he was quite 6'4", but he played long. And so that's a little bit different. No, I'm with you. Those three guys, and you're right, the fears with the float game. The other thing about him, does he get that last little bit of explosiveness back? Because if he does, he's turning the corner in a different way. That was an issue against Auburn, I thought, too. They struggled to turn the corner, which is how they shoot the best, right? They get down and kick out. The other thing, Auburn chose not to double Kohler, which is one of the reasons Kohler did so well on the block, especially in the second half. It's one of the few teams that hadn't doubled him in a while. And you see what he can do against those Auburn's two guys. I mean, Broome may not be the best defender, but he's huge, and Cardwell is huge, and he had his way with him because they didn't double. And I think that was probably a smart move on Bruce Pearl's part by not doubling. Then Kohler's not kicking it out, and they're getting the swing for the open, the open inside out threes. They didn't really have any of those. The other way to do it was penetration. So to your point, the Sooners get that back. I'm with you on Kohler. Coaches have probably told you this. They've been telling me for a few, a month, that they feel like Jesse McCullough is going to be as good as any big next year that they have from what they've seen in a year in practice with his red shirt. I'm sure you heard similar things. So that's another piece to consider, right?
Yeah, no, and I think correct. They would have played him this year if they had to. Like, there are a lot of years where he would have been in the rotation. He was better than, significantly better, I think, than Cooper was, for example, 2 years ago when he was forced to play as a freshman or anything like that. I think they would have used him, and that's a luxury, right? And if you can, in this day and age, you could have him for a year and he could go somewhere else. But if that means you get that guy for a few years, and he's a guy who, he can stretch a defense too. I think he's a really good big, and they've done a good job after being sort of left out of of the big men being an issue for a while, of getting guys who they can develop and have around for a while and have a pretty high floor. Like, I think McCullough has a pretty high floor, obviously, and I think Cooper now does. And that late get wound up being something that they can lean into as a senior for him. What's next for you? Are you on the Pistons title run now? What's the next big thing?
Yeah, this is unusual. Let me just say real quickly, if Jace Richardson comes back and the other folks take a step, which is a fairly reasonable thing to assume, especially with the history of this program, they'll be better than they were this year. And I don't think they'll need much. If he doesn't come back, that's a different story. But you know what I mean? Yep. You said, what do they need to I think if he comes back and you assume evolution, they will have a chance to be Final Four, even title worthy next year. Yeah, with the guys that they also have coming in. Cam Ward, they love, right?
Yeah.
They love his physicality, and they just need to keep adding to that. So, in any case,
Ward is going to play. Ward is going to play on day one. You watch him, there's certain times you can be lied to by highlights, but Cam Ward is, and you put him, paired with Kohler or next to Cohen Carr, and you have really interesting physical dynamics that I think could be trouble for opponents. But go ahead.
No, and that's the key, and that's why they think if all falls into place, they can be better next year. I mean, hey, look, coaches are going to be optimists, but they're pretty realistic up there too. They knew where they were, they knew what they needed to get to. I mean, the quote we've all written over and over, and you probably talked about on this show over and over and over. I'm going to get back or die trying. Right? They knew what they needed, and they know what they need now, and they're going to try to do everything they can to take that last leap, because that's what this is about, right, Graham? It was a restorative year. Izzo talked about being reinvigorated. He kind of reset the program and reminded them what they're capable of when their fundamentals are there. So now it's time to take the next step, and we'll see if they can do it. But for me, more basketball, man. How unusual is this? I usually come back and it's baseball.
Yeah.
It's baseball, and that's it. And then, you lean into other type of feature stories. This is when you go out and try to get a little bit creative. But now I'm coming back, and I wrote a Pistons column yesterday, kind of off the fight that happened in Minnesota on Sunday, just the identity they're building. And got several games to go to, and then a playoff. I don't want to say run because I don't want to assume, but at least a first-round series. Almost certainly. It's not quite a done deal, but a couple more wins, and they'll be in a first-round series.
Well, it's going to be fun. The Pistons are relevant, and they got a chance in that first round, and the Tigers look like they're going to be okay, so that'll give you something all summer. And, we'll talk during the NBA Finals when it's Pistons Thunder. So we'll
this team is something, aren't they? I mean, it's something.
It is, and I don't know if it's just for a while I thought it was just the contrast to how bad they've been. But they are actually, they are tough, they're fun, they shoot well enough. The Beasley story is incredible. It's a really good basketball team. What are they, 33-17 or something over the last 50? You look at their number.
Number 2 in net rating, top 5 top 2 defensively, top 6 or 7 offensively. You're starting to think, okay, is this real?
Yeah.
But the numbers say it is. I don't know.
Sean, it was great to hang with you for several weekends in a row. Don't get to do that as much as I'd like, and appreciate you coming on, man.
Oh, always a pleasure, Graham. Good to talk to you.
All right, talk soon. That is the great Shawn Windsor from the Free Press. Any thoughts there, Jason?
Absolutely. It's the only thing I could think about while you two old windbags were talking. You went out to dinner with Los?
Yeah.
You, Windsor, and Los.
Just the three of us.
Now, how long was the dinner?
A couple hours.
Any conversation about, why are you ruining the newspaper industry? Or, do you guys talk about Los's, what he does at all, or no?
Not really there. The thing about Los is,
I'm not saying you have to be attacking or anything, but just be like, hey, man.
If Los was in studio, you'd love him. If you went out to dinner with Los, you'd love him. Sweetheart of a guy.
I'm not saying, dude, I'm not out to hate anybody.
Totally.
I'm just talking about the work that I see that he has put out over the years. I'm just confused of why you'd want that as your career, of being shit on and being hated so much, and what it appears to be that he is just coming out with things just to make people fired up is all. I don't know. Like I said, I've never met the guy, but No,
his last column off the tournament where he called Jace Richardson a huge disappointment in that game. That's
See what
just
I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that stuff. But that.
But if you sit down and break bread with him, he's a great guy.
There's no question that even annoyed Windsor. Windsor was not happy. It's what are we doing here? So
right. So do you guys talk about it at all? Or it's just you guys just sit there and what do you talk about during the dinner? Do you talk Lions or does he give any of the hot takes during the dinner?
Yeah, he's not a hot takey guy during dinner at all.
Okay.
In fact, I wish
he just completely turns it off. He does that. Jace Richardson overrated.
I wish he was the columnist at dinner. I wish he was who he was at dinner all the time in his columns.
Yeah, but would that get people to hate read?
That's the problem.
Nice guy Los, all of a sudden, it's just that
is the challenge, right? People say they don't want this, but people read them.
I don't believe that. I've never clicked. I know a Los headline from when I see it, and I have never clicked on. I've never paid a dime to read any of his shit. I refuse to believe. At this point, at the beginning, maybe people were gravitating towards that. I know maybe you guys see the readership and all that stuff, but if he's getting hate reads, then come on. I don't know. Let's say it. Yeah, he gets hate reads, and that's why he's employed still. That's all. The whole time you guys were talking, you guys were making some interesting points. I kept going back. I'm like, oh my God, you had dinner with Los? Unbelievable.
It's fantastic.
I'm not saying he's just a terrible guy, outside of the scene there, miserable and being.
No, I don't think he is at all.
Right. Yeah. But it's just a curious thing. Two guys who are, especially you, were passionate about the newspaper business, and a guy that's just going about it in a weird way, like a Skip Bayless kind of thing. It's just kind of weird. That's all. But it was fascinating.
I wasn't trying to make the meal contentious, eat your soup, Los. Eat your soup, Los. Right. Let's get into this.
You know what I mean, though? Yeah. You're sitting there shooting the shit. You've maybe had a drink or two, kind of getting a little loose. Like, hey, man, what's up with this? Do you really like all this hate that you get and all that stuff? Right? And by the way, can we stop with the McCulloch thing, the Booker hype already?
Well,
you can play right now. All right, great. Now we have to deal with this all off season.
The difference between Booker and McCulloch in terms of the hype's a lot less, number one. Number two,
Cam Ward I can get behind.
But he's been in the program.
Yes.
And so I've seen him in practice. He looks the part. He looks so much better now than he did at the beginning of the year. If the player he was, And again, I think they wanted to get the extra year out of him. They had other big guys. They were certainly going to play Booker as long as they could early and everything. But the player he was in practice in like January and February, if that player had been there in October when I was at practices, I think they would have been like, because I think they would have loved to have used him against Broome and Auburn. Like, for example, he played Broome on the scout team, and he was trying to give them a look with him, and obviously Broome's a better player, but in terms of size and physicality, like...
So is that why Kohler was so shocked when he actually saw Broome in person?
He's like, wait a sec, this isn't McCulloch.
Like, God, this isn't a gumpy white guy. What the hell's going on here?
Well, not a white guy either, but...
McCulloch isn't?
No.
What is he?
I don't know. He's black.
He's not white?
No, he's not white.
Oh, my God, I thought he was a white guy. I haven't seen him.
I don't know his full ancestral background.
Oh, okay, my bad. I thought he was a white guy. Does he play like a white guy?
No, not necessarily.
Oh, all
right. He's a big guy. I mean, I don't know. Big guy.
Why am I thinking country Bryant Reeves in my head?
Yeah, that's not
McCulloch.
him.
I have him confused with someone.
He's got kind of this Irish name, that you think, well, yeah. No, it's
my bad.
Yeah, all good. All good. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will pick the games with Harry. Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Pure Options Craft Cannabis, and our Wednesday afternoon show by Front 43 and Cask and Company.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. Mention Couch the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a Pro Grow 8th with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeeper's online casino and sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Pure Options Craft Cannabis. Go to pureoptions.com, download the app today, or and join their Pure Perks loyalty program and enter to win $1,000 at any Pure Option location. The drawing is April 8th. And also our Wednesday afternoon show brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar. It is time now to bring in the great Harry Gagnon from Against All Odds with Cousin Sal, The Ringer, and BetOnline.com. Harry, how you doing, brother?
Good. What's up, guys? How's everything?
Things are well.
Really good, except for my college basketball picks. Holy hell. I hope you guys are having a better March Madness than I am.
You're not pounding the crown. You're not pounding the crown contest in the tournament in Las Vegas, Jay?
Hell no, no way. Those guys are a bunch of sharp bettors. I mean, come on.
These games are easy.
There's every team's missing 6 players in the portal. I don't even know who's playing. It's a hard. It's ridiculous. It's
absolutely ridiculous.
Hard event to do. The Final Four, though, everybody plays, and that's cool. And I think, Harry, forever, I do think we missed something a little bit with the Cinderellas early on. I think you want Cinderellas to win the first round. I think you'd like to have a couple in the Sweet 16. But there's nothing wrong with having 4 1 seeds in the Final Four at this caliber, because I think it creates a hell of a weekend. Do you see?
But doesn't it kind of diminish the March Madness tournament, though, with the 4 1 seeds? I mean, that's the fun part, is to see maybe a 4 or 5 or a 6 seed in the Final Four.
It'd be nice to have one, but you're not going to get them. This isn't going to happen every year. I don't think. I think there are going to be fewer Cinderellas now because it's harder to build as a mid-major, and you'll have some still. But the idea that you have 4 teams of this caliber, all 1 seeds, this is not every year. This won't be an annual thing, I don't think. Do you see any? When you look at this Final Four, are there any edges you see, like anybody that stands out to you and value?
I will say this. With the Final Four being in San Antonio, Houston being 195 miles away from San Antonio, it's interesting that Houston gets to play in their home state. Calvin Sampson's been around a long time. He's been at Houston a decent amount of time where he's built a tremendous program. But at the same time, I know they're going up against Duke, but to me, and later on today, I will be recording Against All Odds with Cousin Sal and Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend on FanDuel TV. I feel like there's a little bit of a feeling for me that this Houston team, out of the 4 teams here, is kind of feeling like the redheaded stepchild here, that they don't have a chance because it is because you're playing Duke, and the other 2, Florida's been and Auburn have been at the top all season, and the SEC's everyone's been talking about the SEC and 14 teams in the tournament and how great they've been all season. I just think that Houston's getting a little bit of diminished here in terms of what they are possibly and what they can do. L.J. Cryer hasn't been great the last 2 games shooting, but he's been tremendous all season, senior from Katy, Texas, in his home state. I have a little bit of a feeling that Houston is going to surprise, and getting 5.5 is a big number to me. And again, I know Duke has just been rolling everybody and looked fantastic, and Flagg has been great, and people want to say that he still should be a senior in high school, and he's great. Don't get me wrong, but I have a little bit of a feeling that Houston is going to have a little bit of extra moxie going for them on Saturday, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they win this game outright.
Yeah, I mean, they're the number 1 defense in the country in KenPom. They shoot 40% collectively from 3. Like, Houston is an incredible team. Like, I understand Duke has played at the next level, but I think Duke could lose either one of these games. Now if I had to pick one team, just straight money line and all that stuff, I'd pick Duke here. But I can see Houston winning. They were my pick going into the tournament. Now Duke has been the best team. I don't think there's any question, but they were my pick going in.
I also look at what Houston has done this year, guys. They lost on a neutral court against Auburn by 5, and they were winning that game at halftime. And they have 3 other losses on their resume. 3 losses, all 3 of them they lost in overtime. So they really haven't been behind too much all season. And again, getting 5.5 games in Texas. ACC was really down this year. I know Duke's a different animal when they're part of the ACC, but a different animal in general. I get it, but 5.5, I like it.
Yeah, is it, Jason? Are you on Houston or are you on Duke here?
I'm on Duke. I took Duke -4.5, but the way that I've been going this March Madness, I just fade me. I'm listening to you guys. I'm just sitting here like a good boy waiting to get my golf bets in for the Valero Opens. But I just think Duke's the better team, obviously. I think Houston's so good defensively, but I think Duke's going to take them out of that defensive element. Now, playing in San Antonio, you guys get me on that one. I jumped on Duke -4.5, 5.5. I can totally understand snagging that, but I still like Duke to win this game.
What's been your worst bet, Jason? Like the one that you look at now and you go, how did I take that?
Oh, I was taking when we were in Vegas, I was telling Harry, I was taking all of the McNeese State and all of these terrible basketball teams while I was telling myself, I was telling my friend Jordan, who I was with, I was telling Harry, I got to stop taking the points, I got to stop taking underdogs, and then I would go right to the gold nugget, and I'd go to the friggin' sports book, and I would bet the underdogs. So I just couldn't get out of my own way. I was telling myself what I was doing wrong and going to the book and automatically taking. I just couldn't give points in this tournament. I was such a wuss bag, and hopefully next year I can change that. But yeah, I just was taking points everywhere. It was stupid.
I'm with Harry that I think the value is on Houston. The thing that always scares me in all these games is basketball is so different than football in the sense that it's like, you get a couple free throws foul, like when the line is inside of 7 points, when you're like 6 points, especially and under, You get a game that's a 2-point game the whole way, and there's like some free throws at the end, and you're
Michigan State, Auburn. When Izzo didn't foul, I had Michigan State plus 6.5, and I was like, Tom Izzo, you beautiful bastard, without fouling. I was bummed about the game, but it's like, how did they cover that? I thought there was no way in hell they were going to cover that spread. So yeah, it happens.
Harry, the other game, Florida, which is Auburn was the best team for part of the year. Florida beat Auburn and looked good doing it a while ago. 2.5. Auburn's kind of found their mojo at the end of the Michigan game and Michigan State game. These teams know each other. Conference game. What do you like or not like in the with Florida plus 2.5 or sorry minus 2.5 against Auburn?
Well, I think when the bracket and the seedings came out, Florida was my team to win it all. I'm still sticking with them. You mentioned that they beat Auburn this year. They did beat them, and they beat them in Auburn by 9, and they didn't have Elijah Martin in that game either, Florida, and they still took care of them by 9. The Broom injury on his elbow, I don't know how severe that is. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think he's still going to do what he does, which is usually a double-double. He's had 3 out of 4 double-doubles so far in the tournament. I think he'll get his. But overall, I think it's Florida. I know they've had a couple scares here against Texas Tech and even Connecticut, the 2-time defending champs, but I think Florida still is the team because of their guard play. The three tremendous guards that'll be in the NBA. Overall, I think it's just Florida that's the better team, and I'm going to take I'm taking the Gators to get it done for head coach Golden.
What's interesting is I'm looking at these futures. Duke is even money to win the national title. Florida's plus 300. Like, if you like Florida, there's still value there. Plus 300. Now they're gonna have to win. They're gonna win 2 competitive games, but I think there's value there. Houston plus 400.
But you would say that Florida has the easy against Auburn, the easier game, right, than Duke against Houston.
I think so.
Probably. Yeah,
so
boy.
Decent value.
And Walter Clayton, guys, the junior, the way he finished that game against Texas Tech. I mean, I might be making a stretch here, comparing him to like Michael Jordan, but the dude was flawless down the stretch when they needed somebody to step it up. I mean, he's taking terrible, hard-making threes, knocking down everything in the last 3-4 minutes. He controlled the game. He got them there. 14 of 15 from the free throw line, including the threes. I think this is a guy that just lives for a moment like this. I think he's going to be huge. I also like him. You can get him at minus 125 at over 20.5 points in the game against Auburn. I think he does that because, again, the first matchup, high scoring. Florida had 90. He's the guy. I just think overall, he is the guy that, he was tremendous, again, against Texas Tech. I think he's going to do the same against Auburn.
You like Auburn or Florida, Jason?
This is a little bit of a spite bet for me. I just don't think Auburn is that good. Watching them against Michigan when they were down, 9-10 points against them, and Michigan State, I mean, obviously, if they would have shot better against Auburn, I just think Florida, especially Golden against Bruce Pearl, I think that Florida wins this game. I got Florida minus 2.5.
So anybody who wants like Florida plus 300 to win the thing should do the math. Like if you take the money line against Auburn, and then you figure they're going to be plus 190 or something like that against Duke, around there if they play Duke. So that's the thing. Like you got to. I think plus 300 isn't horrible value if you really like Florida still at this late stage in the tournament. Is there anything else this week you like, Harry, in any other realm?
I don't know. I'm just focusing on these 2 games right now. Yeah. That's it. I mean, I do have a baseball game tonight. Real quick, I like. Yeah. I mean, this start to the season has been pretty crazy. A lot of different things that we haven't seen: the home runs, the torpedo bats, and all this stuff going on. But I mean, meanwhile, under the radar at 7-0 are the Dodgers, and they're just rolling. And the Braves don't have a win yet. And tonight, Blake Snell, who didn't have a great outing in his first start for the Dodgers. I like the Dodgers to go to 8-0. I like them minus 1.5 tonight at minus $1.25 against the Braves. Braves are third in the National League in strikeouts. That's Snell's game is striking out guys. and this Dodger team is just putting up numbers left and right. The lineup is stacked. I don't know what's going on with the Braves, but again, going up against a guy like Blake Snell, who's a strikeout guy, and in the Braves, that's all they're doing is striking out. I don't know how they compete tonight. I like the Dodgers -1.5 tonight in baseball.
Ah, that's beautiful. Beautiful.
Can I give out my golf bets?
Of course.
For the Valero Open.
Love to hear 'em.
By the way, my Houston Open bet, I did too many. Now I'm going back to 2 legs. I did 3 players.
Can I guess real quick? For some reason, Graham, I'm telling you, whatever bets Jason has, in my head, I have a feeling he's going with Tommy Fleetwood somewhere.
Nope. No Tommy Fleetwood, although that
okay.
guy makes every friggin' cut. So if you want to get him to make the cut, he's probably -190 to make the cut in the Valero Open. No, I'm saying the Houston Open last week, I gave out Michael Kim, Jake Knapp, and Davis Thompson, top 30. Michael Kim, who needed that to get into the Masters, to get into the top 50 on the world rankings, finished 32nd. Knapp and Thompson finished in the top 30. So I'm going back to 2 legs here. The first one is Gary Woodland, top 20. Both these are top 20. Ludwig Hebert, who's the favorite in this, at top 20, and Gary Woodland in the top 20. He cracked the top 10 in San Antonio, Harry. In each of his last 2,
by the way, that was good to see.
And in each of his 2 last starts at Valero, he's cracked the top 10. They're top 20. That pays +505. The other parlay, Ben Griffin. Both of these are top 30. I'm not doing the top 10 or outright winners. As a golf bettor, you have to be smart. You can't sit there and do that. Maybe after the first 2 rounds. But I'm kind of trying to be a smarter golf bettor this year, boys. So Ben Griffin in the top 30, he needs to win this tournament to get into the Masters. Also, Lee Hodges, who is 6th in the PGA in shots gained. The guy is a putting maestro, and that pays +405. So those are my 2 golf bets for the Valero Open.
I cannot wait to get.
Graham, Jason did more homework there than he ever did in high school.
Yeah, no, there's the transcripts.
There was no homework in high school.
The transcripts from Lansing Waverly are pretty dire. It's I
had to take correspondence classes to graduate, so there was no. I love golf more than I did high school. So,
Harry, I'll give you one soccer bet this weekend. There's some stuff going on today, but I don't think most of it, unless you're a live listener, getting on it's going to be tough. But I really like the way Crystal Palace is playing. I like Crystal Palace on the draw no bet -25 at home against Brighton. Crystal Palace has been like the metrics show for quite a while now, the second best team in the Premier League, the way they're playing. And they're at home this weekend, -125 on draw no bet, which means that you get your money back if it's a tie. I absolutely love that line, and we'll be all over it. And that game is Saturday at 10 a.m. for whet your appetite, win a little money, and then get into the championship games.
Soccer that gets you up early.
Yeah,
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Absolutely, Harry, you're a beautiful man. Hope to talk Masters with you next week.
Sounds great, guys. Awesome.
Have a good one.
Enjoy
Thanks,
the
man.
Final Four.
The great Harry Gagnon from Against All Odds with Cousin Sal and BetOnline.com, and of course The Ringer. God, Harry's a beautiful man. Just hearing his voice like once a week makes me feel.
Well, you have his number. You can call him if you need to hear it. I mean, it's kind of weird that you wait till he gets on to start.
I should do that. We're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, we've got leftover listener takes, baked takes, hot takes, cold takes, bad
David
takes,
Jackson
good
takes.
Everybody's takes. Coming up next, Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Pure Options Craft Cannabis, and our Wednesday afternoon show by Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. Mention Couch the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a Pro Grow 8th with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeeper's Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. From your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen, Bar, or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with one awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at gomuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF. Come enjoy irresistible, award-winning, handcrafted donuts and locally roasted coffee at Groovy Donuts. Surprise your family or coworkers with special holiday designs and flavors, or put the perfect finishing touch on an event with a custom order. Birthdays, weddings, gender reveals, our friends at Groovy Donuts are your answer. Experience the Groovy Donuts difference for yourself on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Get more information or place an order at groovydonuts.com.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options Craft Cannabis. Go to pureoptions.com, download the app today, join the Pure Perks loyalty program, have your Pure Options experience tailored just for you. And our Wednesday afternoon show brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar, just near the Lansing-East Lansing border on East Saginaw. Terrific place to watch games, settle in for a date night, 2 distinct vibes, 1 outstanding menu, and a new drink menu. At caskandcompany.com, where you can make a reservation. All right, we did not get to every one of our listener takes before the end of yesterday's show. Obviously, the Holloman news delayed the start of the show, and then we had all this stuff. But we want to get to. First of all, we really appreciate you producing our show.
Yeah,
like we do. We do
like
not,
a lot.
Yeah,
like the first thing after the show is like we got to get to the people that wrote it.
Yeah. You put effort into them. You care. And you're part of the show, and so we want to make that effort too, and you enhance the show. So let's dig into the leftover takes.
B. Warsborough book next. This season should be a signal to some of the professionally distraught elements in our fan base that Izzo isn't washed. This season also reminded a lot of us that he's the dean of the coaching fraternity here in East Lansing, as he works with Smith, Freilich, Nightingale, and others. Cheers, Coach, and thanks. And bonus, unlike some of the previous iterations of this MSU team, I feel like this group with Carr, Kohler, Fears, and Jace could really be really special if those 3 stick together for another season. Do I think it'll happen? Not without my Kelly Green tinted glasses on, but let me dream, Couch.
Yeah, and obviously, the longer guys aren't in the portal, the more likely they're. I mean, guys usually jump in the portal early because that's when, you want as much money to be out there. You want teams to know you're available, right? So the longer those guys aren't in the portal, the more likely they're to come back. And with Jace Richards is interesting. I don't even know. I was talking to somebody about this today, about if you test the waters, it's like 2 months before you really know, because he goes through the NBA draft process. But does he need to go through the NBA draft process? I guess he can if he wants to, but he's a first-round pick. And what I mean is, if he's going to go, he should go through the NBA draft process. But if he wants to be an MSU, what's really the point? You know what I mean? He's not somebody who's trying to prove to the NBA. The NBA is intrigued and wants him. And so I don't know if it makes a whole lot of sense for him. If you want to be at Michigan State, for another year, then just do that.
But without going through the process, you can still get a baseline view, like a thought from Izzo and other of the NBA, right? I'm sure that they can give him projections for the draft.
Sure, and the thing is, what's interesting, and just getting a read from his people, I don't think they care that he's drafted high. They want him to be in a good situation, and they want him to be able to work toward the second contract. They view him as a guy who will figure it out himself and make it. They trust that quite a bit. I know he's a smaller guard and all that, but he also, comes from means and a basketball family that understands what he's getting into. It's a unique situation because so few kids have parents that have that money and also that knowledge of what he's about to get into, right? And that's just a different dynamic. So to me,
and you really want to play with the Wizards, right? Like I'd rather come back for another season, see what else shakes out for the lottery.
But he's not. So that's the thing. So do you wait till the draft lottery and see who's where? And then if you come back and you do raise your stock, are you the worst team then if that's what you're trying to avoid? And if you go now, you get closer to that second contract next year. I would still, if you told me you bazooka to the head, you've got to bet your mother's house on whether he stays or goes. I would bet that he leaves. But I also would probably vomit every day, nervous about the bet because I don't know which way it's going to go.
Howard Bailey next. Number one, Sunday went as expected. MSU was simply outclassed. Props to Izzo for overperforming with a B team. If we want to get back to a real contention, we need an A team. The media compared this year's team to a fabled years, but it's not close. We don't have a Cassius, McQuaid, or an X. 2, no shade to the players. They did their best, but the blueprint is already there. Teams closer to the blueprint may make the deeper runs. This year was closer to 11 and 12, spiting initial expectations. If Tom really wants to die trying, we need to be elite, not just have good players.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was sort of a team that was between 97, 98, 98, 99, like better than 97, 98, and not as good as 98, 99. 11, 12 was a 1 seed, and obviously you had the injury. So there are a couple things there. There is another level they clearly need to take. Now, can you take that from within? Because teams have in the past. And if certain players, and we talked about that early in the show, if it's, to me, it's Fears, it's Carr, it's Kohler. Those 3 guys have another level within them of consistency and ability that they can get to. In terms of let me get what I missed the other part of this. Oh, I'm reading the wrong one now. I'm like, what? How did I freaking miss this? The idea of they don't have Cassius McQuaid or Xavier Tillman. First of all, McQuaid is a good player, but McQuaid, I think often when guys leave and they're part of legendary runs, we romanticize them.
McQuaid, you think about that dunk against Duke?
Yeah. McQuaid was in his head through his junior year. I remember doing a piece on him just about just how difficult it was for him to find confidence.
Yep.
And so he had a great junior year. But you talk about other guys developing. Xavier Tillman became a very, very good player, became an elite defensive college player as a junior, and was a very, very, very good one as a sophomore. As a rebounder, you could argue Kohler per 40 minutes and all that stuff is actually better. Defensively, Xavier Tillman was higher, but and Cassius Winston was the most efficient player in college basketball, so that's tricky. But they're not; those guys were not like those guys didn't look like Florida's guys. They were just Tillman had figured out how to stop all of them, and that's what you need. You need a guy who is just that elite and that strong defensively, because that team was not his senior year was not going to lose to a team that relied on a big man. Like Broome would not have beaten Michigan State. Auburn may have beaten Michigan State, but it wasn't going to be on the back of Broome if that team had played Xavier Tillman. That's how good he was, and that's why I thought they had a chance to win a national title, because we just saw it repeatedly against other big men and different kinds of forwards and big men. Tillman had truly become elite in that area.
ZRGR next. To win a national title, you need a National Player of the Year candidate. Length at most positions, elite athleticism, elite rim protection, 4 to 5 plus 35% three-point shooters. See the current 1 seeds. One big that can score at will, injury luck, ref luck, tournament seeding luck, at least 2 NBA talents. After all that, you have to hope there aren't 3 other teams in the NCAA that also have all those things the same year. Imagine how hard it's going to be for 3 of the 4 1 seeds to have teams this great and not win a championship. Baked. Watching an Elite 8 game mixed with active tornado warnings, sirens, and risk of power loss requires a very precise amount of pure options to stay calm but alert.
Yeah, you really gotta get that right.
How about when your wife is stoned and she goes, "Oh my God, I got too high for this. I shouldn't be high for this tornado."
Is that what happened to you, Therese?
Oh yeah, because dude, there was sirens going off, and all of a sudden she goes, "Oh man, I got too high for this. I shouldn't be." I was like, "This is the perfect amount of high to be for this craziness." If I was sober dealing with this, you would not want to be with me.
How does your dog handle it?
She's going to be 13 in July, so she's kind of like she can't hear anything anymore.
Okay, so
we're past that, yeah.
Okay,
because we heard some booms like this afternoon, and she didn't even budge. So
okay, well
thankfully, yeah, we don't have to worry about that.
Did you guys go in the basement or anything?
Well, we don't have a basement.
Oh, not a true basement.
We don't have a true basement, but yeah, no, we have. I don't know. I guess we just have to close our eyes and pray. Grab onto that tornado and fly. I don't know. But no, we don't have a basement down there.
That's
we do have like a what is it called? It's there is something underneath the house, but I'm not going underneath that
little
shit.
shelter. You can get a little crawl space or
There's
something.
There's a crawl space with like a floor down there and all that shit. But that's not where I want to go to die. I mean, if I'm gonna hang on to the Midnight Tavern and go for a ride. Whatever. What's going to happen?
That is a story we're telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. An awesome place for a date night or any occasion, including Tuesday trivia, catch a Tigers game in the afternoon, duck out of work, whatever it may be. Fantastic menu, lighter things, heavier things, comfort food. They just do everything really well, and they have my favorite beer, the American Stout. And they are the sponsors of course, the Couch of the Rube Bracket Challenge, men's and women's brackets. I'm
scared to look at mine.
You didn't do well.
I know. I know. I don't need you to tell me that.
Yeah.
Maybe the women's one I did decent, but man.
Yeah. No,
I picked chalk in one of those, but yeah. John Naughty. I almost did it. I've had it, he says. The Lansing State Journal can expect my online application ASAP. I want to brandish a muskox at center court and write about basketball. Graham, tell Groovy Donuts I'm coming for your gig.
Appreciate you, John. I saw John at the game.
Why would you have to tell Groovy Donuts, though, that you're coming for your...
Well, just, why not?
Oh, okay.
Let them know.
To get the sponsor in there.
Let them know. It was in Atlanta, 77-degree day, muskox flannel.
Of course.
I'm telling you. And the thing is...
Flop sweat.
No, you're talking about a guy who sweats everywhere. Like, I sweat wearing a T-shirt and shorts when I was about to propose to my wife, right? You just get hot and sweaty, and it's awful. Didn't sweat. I mean, it is a comfortable... It is not one of those things that's like heavy on you and you walk in a room and now I'm too hot. It's incredible. Muskox flannel is incredible.
Oasis Dog 97. Lock Fears and Cohen in the gym every day until they make 30 straight threes. Grab a wing and a center in the portal and bribe the people who grade prospects to give Jace a grade outside of the lottery, and let's run this shit back.
See, I don't know if that works, though. I'm telling you right now, as long as he's a first-round pick, I don't think they want him to be in a bad situation. They don't care about that. They don't. And, I mean, they would love him to play like next to Anthony Edwards as a secondary ball handler in Minnesota. Like, that would be a dream scenario. And so you think about that, where are they going to draft? And I don't know their pick situation. They gave away 90% of them for Rudy Gobert. So maybe who knows? Who knows where teams are picking? I haven't looked at all that stuff. But I think it's just a different dynamic with him. With Jace Richardson, it's where does he want to spend next year? Does he want to be a 19-year-old in the NBA? And that can be tough, but it also that's the life you're headed towards anyway, and you may be fine. Max Christie's thrived. It's been okay. Gary Harris was miserable. Would have rather done a third year at Michigan State. Felt like he was lonely. He was too young. He missed college, and you only get so much time to be like the star that Jace Richardson would be in college. But it's really about what you want, what experience you want, and I don't think for him there's a wrong answer. But I can't entirely predict it.
Suburban Spartan Dad, Cohen Carr plays his way onto an all Big Ten team next year. It's not hard to imagine him scoring 14 points a game, picking up 6 boards, and being one of the scariest defenders in the conference if he makes a similar offseason leap as he did this year.
They need it to happen. They really do, because he is,
We need some other guys to take a leap.
No doubt.
Cohen's been taking leaps, and he will take another leap. But we need that Fears leap.
The Fears leap is big.
The Fears leap is gigantic.
Well, especially because
I know a lot of people want to give up on him, but I think he's still a great basketball player that just needs a 15-foot jump shot. Right?
Yeah, and to make the three, he needs the floaters and the threes. He just needs time to work with. He doesn't have the lift he once had, right? There's no question about that. And so you're shooting, it's a different dynamic. Your body is different. And he didn't have any time really to work with that this offseason the way you would normally. And the other thing, the reason the sophomore year or freshman year to sophomore year jump is so prevalent and so important is it's the year after you figured out what you can't do and what college basketball is. Like you're all of a sudden like, shit, I'm not good enough at this. I'm not good enough at this. I thought I was good enough here. Like I think with Jackson Kohler, for example, if he hadn't got hurt, I think a lot of the improvements we saw from him would have taken hold. You saw the way he reshaped his body going into sophomore year before he got hurt. Like that was him. He understood, I'm not good enough in this area to compete in the Big Ten. And so he'd made changes. I think Fears will do the same. I think Cohen Carr took a long look at himself and realized what he had to do. And I do think he knows he's got some special gifts. And if he can, as we talked about with Shawn, if he can, continue to get better at getting downhill, because he's gotten a lot better at it, and start to hit shots, he's really just a ferocious player.
David Jackson finally leaving Kohler alone in the post defensively for about 10 straight Auburn points was coaching malfeasance. Malfeasance?
Feasance close.
Malfeasance. And Holloman's game-long no-show just took a big bite out of the legacy he created when he took no crap from the Michigan players on senior day. And Bake Take. Holloman entered the transfer portal because of my hot take above. It's unfortunate we were just getting into it today. I mean,
yeah,
maybe he read it on Twitter.
So, yeah, no, I don't think. I mean, I don't think of Holloman. I think Holloman's legacy will age well. I do, unless he goes to Michigan or something, which he's not going to do. But
are you sure?
Actually, I'm not sure of anything anymore. But I think people will appreciate who he was and what he did. And if he goes somewhere where he gets to be a primary ball handler, he's playing 30-plus minutes. And I don't think anybody's going to begrudge him that. And I think it was
just him being the first one was the shock.
It was jarring.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah. I think people will be happy for him, but it's just like, wow. Professor Jace Richardson comes back as the primary point guard next season. And baked. Cake is better without ice cream. That could be the wildest baked take we've ever had.
Yeah, it is not better.
That is
without
impossible.
Ice cream. Cake with ice
is
cream
better without ice cream?
And it's like saying you shouldn't have coffee at the end of that, too. Cake, ice cream, and coffee is like the trifecta in this world.
Ice cream cake is like one of the best things ever invented.
I may get some on the way home. I mean, like if there's one thing I could recommend to Groovy Donuts, it would be like also become an ice cream shop. Ice cream cake donuts. I would live there. I would. To the Jace Richardson comes back as the primary point guard next season. I do think Richardson would like to have the ball in his hands more, but I think they will work with that. I mean, I think especially without Holloman now, it'll be him and Fears running the play. And to be honest, I don't know that this plays that much of a role. But if one of the things Richardson wants to do is be more of the guy with the ball in his hands, and obviously when Fears is out there, he's going to play a lot of point guard. But now, I mean, you could have a situation where Fears, I mean, both guys are 30-minute-a-game guys, but for the, at least 10 minutes a game, Richardson's the primary point guard, and he's playing quite a bit more with the ball in his hands, even with Fears out there. I don't know. If Jace Richardson has concerns about his role and wants to come back otherwise, if that is in there, they'll make that work for him. I just think he's too valuable. I still don't. I still would lean towards him leaving, but
But you don't know.
It could go either way.
DMB, number one, the car missed alley-oop was a missed opportunity to shift the momentum. 2, proud of this team that just ran out of gas and not enough shooters. Keep Jace around and buy an elite wing or center. Win it all next year. NIL era should be a positive for Izzo's program.
One of the things that's going to get tricky, though, when this revenue sharing starts is if you want Michigan State football to be great, and we'll see how many workarounds there are in NIL, but you need Michigan State to spend in football like the other programs, and that's spending most of that revenue sharing. The programs that are going to have the big advantage are the big schools that don't have football. The Big East, for example. Those schools don't have to pay football. Like, that's a big advantage. And you know what? I don't mind that, because how long did the Power 4 schools or Power 5 conferences shit on the Big East and that league dissolved? Like, some of this is getting your comeuppance. All of a sudden in another sport, they've got an advantage. I can't hate on it.
Scotty Green's El Camino, number one, Jace is a huge decision for this team next year. I say he comes back. doesn't need the financial security of the league, and will be hungry to run this back next season. Have fun and be a kid a little longer. Wonder how Jason will influence him. 2, MSU fans, myself included, are spoiled. Izzo's standards are so high that we are somehow disappointed this team didn't go to the Final Four. Too many flaws for that. Still an outstanding year that won a deep league by 3 games. Hung a banner, fucking outstanding. And baked. Dominic took Torkelson to see Peaches McSugar this offseason for some slump busting. Her glitter is like magic dust for his bat. Yeah, Torque is hitting, man.
Yeah. It's a good start. It's a great start. He had a good spring too, and I kept thinking, like, what does that mean? Does it mean anything? Because I usually think it doesn't, and it's
the best shape he's ever been in. Oh wait, that's Miggy. That was the Miggy bit.
I watched the Tigers Tuesday night on the treadmill,
of course,
against Seattle. They look really good. Like, they had good approaches. They just ran into a Dodgers team that's just incredible. But they had good approaches.
It's a $400 million payroll.
Yeah.
I wasn't taking anything away from that Dodgers series whatsoever. It's like, I mean, what I took away from it is, wow, look how the difference of, like, that lineup and everything else.
Mize looked good last night. I mean, they're going to be, I think they're going to be fine.
Olsen looked good, too. I mean, these guys,
they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun summer.
Mikey Patterson. Number 1, Rube, it's pronounced like Mickey. 2, Couch, what was the quote tweet you deleted?
Oh, yeah.
It's probably the first one going, who gives a shit? 3, is it possible to get another group to buy in like this again? I do think the strength in numbers helped limit injuries and being worn out and being wearing down other teams at the end of games. Just too big of a hole and not getting 50-50 bounces today. You got to get those 50-50 balls, man.
So I don't know that strength in numbers can ever work the same way. It can work with a first-year group together. I don't know that it works the same way because guys eventually want to get theirs. And I think that's what we see with Tre Holloman, right? Guys, they did win. They were all about winning. Now, if you're all about – I'm not saying it can't work. And but you need young guys to be the numbers, and if that makes sense. Like, you need the freshman 2 wings to be the guys. You need, Kurt Tang, who didn't have any role really this year, to have a role and be happy with whatever that role is. You need that to be the depth, right? And then you can have a little of it. But, you already saw it by the end of the year, Jace Richardson, like if he came back, he was playing minutes in the 30s per game. I think Fears could be in that same realm a year from now, especially if Holloman's gone.
So what was the quote tweet you deleted?
It's one of those, like, accounts online that's never right, and I don't know if they're making shit up or not, but they said that Nate Oates was going to be the Maryland coach, and
was this yesterday?
No, this is Sunday night, I think. I was, like, sitting there in my hotel room writing
on a treadmill.
No, I was just writing the column, and I looked, and I was,
you thought Nate Oates would take the Maryland job over Alabama?
It was dumb. I knew it, and immediately I looked at who did the tweet. Originally, I saw the tweet, and I thought it was a reputable person.
Was it Los?
It was not Los.
Oh.
It was not Los. Yeah,
I have to ask. I'm sorry.
So that's why I got rid of the tweet. I was like, sometimes you just can't give people any oxygen, and you're like, that was dumb. I need to get rid of that.
Violet Beauregard next. MSU did so well because they were a team of brothers. No egos, everyone playing for one goal. Some sat out, some stepped up, but they were unique because they all pitched in. This is more important than a team with one star. That's what basketball is about. Love those Spartans. Thanks from an alum.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's a unique thing. It's a rare thing. Izzo talked about how hard it was even for them. Like, it didn't, I think there was, it's still a delicate thing. Everybody does have an ego. Everybody wants to do well themselves. But they did care about winning. And I think I asked, I think it was Holloman I may have asked about this. I can't remember whose quote it was, but I think it was Holloman who just said they thought winning would solve everything. And maybe it didn't for him, but it did for this year and this year's team.
Chris, next. I think what will stick with me most about this MSU team is their refusal to quit, which no matter what the score was, gave hope that the game isn't over. I hope they can hold on to this ability in upcoming years as it makes a team even more enjoyable to root for. And bonus, if college hockey wants to obtain the star power that's allowed women's basketball to flourish, they desperately need to have conference tournaments settled in a weekend and extend the NCAA tournament regionals to 2 weekends.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff they can do, but that's one of them. The NCAA or the conference tournament certainly doesn't need to be 3 weekends. That's the thing about the conference tournament right now in college, in the Big Ten. It's just ridiculous. Like, there's a way to do that in 2 weekends, and even so, you don't. If you kept it the way it is, you can fix the NCAA tournament with multiple weekends. I think college hockey loses steam. A lot of teams, like the Big Ten, teams had buys late in the year. Then they played one game. Minnesota didn't play a game for 19 days before their NCAA tournament game. Like, the sport loses some steam, and they need to work on that. But then the double elimination, campus sites, 2 weekends for the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. That is the absolute way to go. And I will fight anybody who thinks differently, and that includes Jack Ebling who thinks differently. I will fight Jack Ebling on this.
When can we schedule that? Ben Chulik next, number 1 of all the non-Final Four MSU seasons. This was the second most enjoyable one after Izzo's first Big Ten championships or in Sweet 16 year in '98. And 2, people who don't appreciate that should have their fan card revoked. And bonus, social media companies need to develop a function that can block ugly replies and DMs to athletes that a SID or parent can turn on after losses.
That would be next level. Like, if, the problem is, yeah.
Get on it, Blue Sky.
Yeah, make it happen. Make it happen. Yeah, you'd have to.
Where just all of a sudden a cat picture appears instead of the DM.
You just know it was
Welcome
something
to Blue
nasty.
Sky. Yeah. BPA, number 1, Jace is going to sit down with Izzo and tell him, I'm only coming back if you hit the portal tomorrow and get me a monster big man and a point guard who can shoot and space out the defense. Bonus, I'm not convinced Fears can ever develop a jump shot. It's the single greatest threat to Jace's ability to drive and create, and ultimately the biggest risk to his draft stock if he returns. Fears and Kohler will come off the bench next season if Izzo hits the portal right.
Kohler's not coming off the bench next year. I mean, Kohler was the best rebounder the program's had statistically since Nick Ward in 2018, right? So, like, that is not going to happen. I mean, Kohler,
me, you, and Jeff Kohler will show up all in muskox if that happens.
That's
He's
right.
not coming off the bench.
That's right. It wouldn't make any sense. He's earned it, and he was a starter this year, and I think he's just too big a part of what they're hoping to be next year. I mean, it doesn't. There can't be that many guys in the portal who now, and I get that, like, Michigan just signed Merez Johnson from Illinois or just got him. Like, that's a heck of a get in the portal, and that's a rugged dude. But Kohler's versatility and the fact that he's become an elite rebounder, there just aren't going to be that many guys out there that you'd say, well, bring Kohler off the bench. That I don't think that'll happen. The other, I cannot imagine. I can't. The Jace's draft stock is not hurt by Fears. I just want to say, like, that. I don't think that is. Jace is one of those guys whose draft stock was up there after a couple really big games. The intrigue about him, the possibilities for him, are a big part of his draft stock. And so I don't think, anything any of his teammates do is going to limit that. It's how he creates on the move. It's his shot. It's just it's the whole package. It's how he sees the game. I mean, that's why everybody's so intrigued by him.
Matt C. next. I don't know to be annoyed or happy this team made the Elite Eight without playing an A game. Izzo needs to hire a shooting coach and modernize his offense going forward.
It'd be interesting to see how much the offense changes. They like what they do, and it worked for this team quite a bit. And I think finally too, if you get guys you get big men who can stretch a defense a little bit, the offense works really well. Hiring a shooting coach, like, this team was not a good shooting team. And I'm still not sure. I think part of it was Holloman and Akins, who at one point in their careers were 40-plus three-point shooters in lesser roles. When they were asked to do more and create more of those shots off the dribble and create more volume, weren't able to do it. But that's not entirely it. I'm still not sure why this team never. I kept thinking at some point they would have a stretch of 5 or 6 games where they shot really well from 3, and it never happened.
Donnie Ferrero next. This one hurts. There were definitely chances. A layup here, open 3 there, and maybe it's a different story. But hey, that's sports. Still, the best MSU team we've seen in a minute. They won an outright Big Ten title and fought their ass off all year. Damn proud of this team.
Yeah, it'll be a fondly remembered team forever. It really will. For a non-Final Four team, I think nobody left that thinking, boy, boy, they really didn't maximize who they were. Boy, they should have gotten around further. And I think the other thing that people genuinely understand based on who they were and who the other teams were out there is even if they had somehow beaten Auburn, the idea that they beat Florida and then Duke or Houston seemed like a.
I think it helped that there was 4 number 1 seeds, like no upsets,
and so if they'd gotten to a Final Four, that still would have been cool because you get and I think they would have competed and held up as well as they did against Auburn. And that would have been a cool thing to get back to a Final Four. There would have been some people who said, well, when's Izzo going to win the national title at that point? But that takes a certain type of team, and this team wasn't quite there.
Thomas next. I like how the front court has developed over the year, but adding a guy like Malik Renaud would be huge for next year's squad. And bonus, news stations based out of Indy have figured out how to get around weather interruptions with a frame-in, frame setup. This should be more common, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I need to know what the frame-in, frame setup is. Whatever it is,
so it's
if
like
it's
picture
working,
in picture, or
sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's better than the current iteration that we have right now.
I'll be very curious to see what they do in this transfer portal. I don't know what MSU will do. Malik Renaud is obviously a heck of a player. They have 9 guys right now, so they're not going to go into next year with 9 guys, and they may not fill the roster because at this point it's just more expensive to do so. But I would be very surprised if there aren't 2 more players on that roster heading into next year.
Some dude, number one, following through with benching Booker is the type of stuff that Izzo was talking about when he said, I'm going to coach the way I want to coach. 2, thanks to Jason for his crackhead behavior description of Danny Hurley's bullshit. I lost it on that one.
Well done, sir.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Was. I've known crackheads in my life, and it just appeared it looked like that would be crackhead behavior the way he was acting.
Yeah, well, that's the Booker thing was, I think, for a lot of time this year, they were still hoping he would develop into something that was, the player that they had hoped they'd get when they recruited him. And I give them credit because there is a certain point where, A, you're not as worried about that, but B, you're just trying to win now. And he wasn't helping them win now, and so he wasn't in the rotation, and that comes with consequences. And part of that, they might have lost him anyway, but it certainly, I think, exacerbated or made it more certain that he was going to test the portal.
Dark Mantonio next. You would never know Tony Garcia was a Spartan. The way he covers Michigan sports is at times almost slappy with too much hyperbole and exuberance. I know who Tony Garcia is, Graham, but why don't you let the people know who he is? He
is the Michigan Detroit Free Press beat writer. He is went to Michigan State, was a huge Michigan State fan at one point in his life. So
does he do Lion stuff?
He may have helped out here and there, but not really.
Is he on WJR? I think I know him.
No.
Shit. All right.
No. Different guy.
All right. Thanks for telling us. Lions Guy 97. I don't get how Graham Couch can say his MSU versus Michigan take isn't 100% rooted in his fandom and not professionalism. That game would have been the most important win in Izzo's career outside of a natty and the most soul-crushing loss, bar none. No storylines? Get the F out.
So here's what I'll say at that. It is rooted in understanding the Michigan State fandom. I did grow up a fan, but I also lived. I mean, look, we're doing hot takes with mostly Michigan State fans. We do Twitter questions, Michigan State fans. I'm around Michigan State fans who are diehards. I have a decent pulse of this. I'm not saying it wasn't important from Michigan State's perspective if they had won it, and if they had lost, it would have been crushing. From Michigan's perspective, it just isn't. They move on quickly in basketball. They've already moved on. They're not hurt by this year at all. They weren't hurt by the loss. They're not marinating into what could have been. It's on the football. It just is what it is. It's fine. But that's what I'm saying. And other story. What I mean by that is there would have been lots of storylines with the rivalry, but the storylines that exist in terms of just something you get in the Elite Eight without the rivalry would have been lost, is what I was saying. And I just didn't want to deal with the toxicity, so it was partly a personal thing. Yeah.
Fart Soup, number one, Solari deserved every bit of the medicine Windsor doled out in the post-game recap. 2, things Couch will whisper on his deathbed.
I shot Jeremy Fears. You're right. I did say Cohen Carr was ass his freshman year. And tell the judge I know where Mel Tucker is. Ovid.
We don't have enough time for all of that.
If Mel Tucker was an Ovid, it would be the story of all stories.
Yeah, it would be a good spot for him to hang out. Yeah.
And Ovid people
you can hide in Ovid.
They wouldn't rat him out in Ovid. Nobody rats people out in Ovid.
You'd have to move way out though.
Yeah. There are not a lot of bald black guys in Ovid, are there, though?
There sure isn't, no.
Okay, just wondering. Yeah.
No. John Rambo, what do you think it will take for Magic and Ishbia to put a bag together to bring Jace and this team back the next season?
Well, again, I don't think it's about the money, and that's good and bad, right? I just think like the money will be there for Jace Richardson if he wants to come back. But the question is, where does he want to be? This isn't somebody who comes from no means, who's looking to support his family, who needs to figure this out, right? This is because the money in the NBA would still be, a couple times, I think, better than what he is a rookie, at least looking at the scales I've seen, based on than what he would get as a college player. It's about where he wants to be, what he wants to do next year, and I think that's really all it should come down to.
MVC, number one, a program-defining season doesn't always have to result in a national title. Just bringing back the fan base can provide years of future success. There's nothing worse for an athletic program than apathy. Bonus, an all one-seed Final Four and upsetless March Madness is all Greg Sankey and the SEC need to justify a complete takeover and restructuring of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, fuck Greg Sankey. If they do that, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. I do think there is a longer-term importance to this basketball season. You're right. Like, the football team has had some tough years, and obviously they had the 2021 year, but it's been a while. Other than that year, been a while since they've competed for anything at the top. The hockey team has really helped reinvigorate people in certain ways, but that's still a smaller chunk of Michigan State's fan base that gets their juices stirred by the hockey team. The basketball team doing this and getting them out of sort of the rut of mediocrity, which was still an NCAA tournament program, but 7-seed type team, I think it really matters. I think it did reinvigorate, and we've talked about that quite a bit.
Alex Mayer, number one, this was an incredible season that included a championship and a sweep over the in-state rival. This was the most fun I've had through an entire season in years. And two, because we missed it last week, Chris Beard is still a trash person.
A lot of people don't like Chris Beard. Yep. He's a great coach, though. And if he had Auburn's team, I would pick Auburn to win the national title. I think he's that
so trash person, great coach.
There you go.
Yeah. Couch on Fire. Eventually, your Achilles heel is going to come out. 3-point shooting has been subpar all year, but they have scoring coming from Wade, the all-time Maryland public school scorer, and Norman. Richardson should stay a year and show he can dominate in the college game. And bonus, if this year's Dodgers team, like the early 2000s Red Wings teams, doesn't bring a salary cap to baseball, nothing will.
From what I understand, there's going to be a work stoppage before not before next year, but after next year when the contract's up.
I thought they said that's what it would take for them to have a salary cap. It would work stoppage. It's just not going to all of a sudden.
Yeah, the players union.
If the players union wants to go for something, why would they want it?
They don't want it. Yeah, they don't want it.
Owners, yeah.
But I don't know whether it's the right move. It's certainly what's happening with the Dodgers right now, and just the difference in big team to small team seems a little much. But
I don't know if baseball can survive another work stoppage.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
I don't know.
Yeah, if you do it, you've got to correct some things. Like if you get a salary cap out of it and you get a higher floor, I would want that too. I would want the Pirates to have to spend to a certain level. To me, there should be if you're going to put a $300 million cap on a payroll, okay, but you better have a $150 million floor too. Right. Some of these teams are being cheap about it as well.
Like the A's, how embarrassing is that?
Yeah.
And Sacramento right now. G. Quang next. Hate to say it, but that game exposed MSU's weaknesses. Throughout the season, athletic big men, large guards, and low three-point percentage was a problem. Still, I hope Fiddler and Zapawa soften Izzo's opinions on the portal. Development is great, but we need better players.
Yeah, I don't think he's hated the portal. He hates the combination of everything. The problem in college basketball is the unlimited nature of the portal. If it was a one-time transfer, it would help. If you had to sit out, it would really help. And it's the portal coupled with NIL, right, is a recruiting tool. That's what's made it tricky. Because, Tyson Walker, portal guy. Joey Hauser, before the portal, but transfer. It's not like he's been anti it, but he's anti-recruiting over his own guys. And I think we saw that with Fiddler and Zapawa, important players, but not necessarily recruiting over what you have. So it'll be interesting to see what he thinks he needs and what they recruit this year. And I think you partly have to have an answer from Jace Richardson before you know that.
LMK next. I feel like Izzo and his staff weren't truly expecting the success of this season, just like most of us fans. I believe Jace came to MSU believing a natty was 2 seasons away and will return to see it through. Go green always.
Yeah, it would not surprise me if that mattered to him. It was a goal for him, if trying to take a real shot at it. He saw what it did for his dad in those reunions and the ability to come back and be thought of as that team, right? And to be that guy at Michigan State, like if he leaves now, he will be forever loved. He was an unbelievable freshman, comported himself the right way. Like everything helped him win a Big Ten title, and they would not have won one without him, right? Took him to the Elite Eight. They would not have gotten there without him. All that stuff is true, and he will be forever loved. But if you come back and you lead them, and it still takes, as we talked about earlier, a good take earlier from one of our listeners, it takes a lot of luck, takes some things going right, other development. But if he comes back and they do something truly at an elite special level, the way you are revered and what that is for the rest of your life, regardless of your NBA career, is something. Ask Cleaves. I mean, Cleaves played 4, 5, 6 years in the NBA, became a bit player, didn't really work out, but who he was and is to Michigan State is something that's forever.
MSU ran into a better team, and the only person who decided to show up was Kohler. Bonus. People can lose me with all this positivity. We can appreciate what guys like Akins and Holloman have done for this program while acknowledging that they failed on the biggest stage of their careers. We have heaped praise on them for the entire season. Sunday, they didn't cut it.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't play a great game, but I think some of it was also...
You can go both ways, right?
Yeah.
Some appreciative. And
some of it, you're just up against guys who are better than you, whose the length bothered them. No question bothered them. Now, if Akins had a couple shots that if he hits, it makes a little difference, and that was part of the story of his year, and it showed up again in the final game.
B. Montrose next. Not a quick take, but this was a great team. Looking forward to next year. Jay stays for another year. That's a quick take.
It's quick, very quick.
Technically.
We'll take it.
Yeah. Jay Riemenschneider. People who are hardcore Trump loyalists.
Political part of the show.
Fuck. This was his take? This is just the one? All right. People who are hardcore Trump loyalists would never buy an EV. Those who are Tesla lovers would never vote Republican. A while back, I had a take on here about Elon and Trump's chumminess, and now it's coming to a head. Oil and water don't mix.
Yeah, they're not. That relationship will not end well. That's very clear at this point, and it just
sounds like a take for the morning show here.
Yeah.
After all the sports that happened that weekend, that's the one take. Huh? Hans Jurgen, if we can get Jace to stay, find a complete center who can defend, and find a reliable three-point shooter, we can win the Natty next year. Of course, most teams would as well with those 3 elements.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you need a complete center, and I don't know that they'll go. I don't think they'll go get a center this year because they like McCulloch. They obviously you have a senior now in Carson Cooper, and Kohler can play the position as well. So I don't know that they go out and get a big man, and you maybe don't have a. You're not going to have a guy. Cooper's not going to be a guy you can throw the ball to in the post. That just is what it is. But he's got another level defensively he needs to get to, and that's what really needs to be his focus. Because to me, Cooper being able to have, if you can get a jump hook out of him, that's great. But Cooper becomes a guy who is an elite defender. And I don't know if he has that in him or not, but a truly elite defender, a guy that great offensive big men struggle against with his length and everything. That to me would be more valuable.
And finally, the Hawk, Jake Hawkins. Number 1, man, that MSU game really, really sucked. Couldn't even make an easy or contested layups for 2 points. These past 2 games had me aggravated and upset because those shots would have made the game closer. And when Brome went out, we could have went on a run, but hey, great season overall. And 2, Geico. You've had some really great commercials, but did you have to bring back that annoying one asking, did the little piggy cry, wee, all the way home? Why not ones with Scoop, there it is, the rat problem, or a former drill sergeant making a terrible therapist? You jackwagons.
Thank you, Jake. Always.
Well, dude, the Hawk knows all of the Geico commercials. That's amazing.
I am impressed.
He's the best.
Yeah, I am impressed. And they should bring you in because that's a really good evaluation. Most people aren't paying that close attention. We appreciate you, Jake. We appreciate all of you for helping to produce our show. You can help produce our Friday show. We'll have Groovy Donut Twitter questions.
We'll get to all of them, I promise.
We'll get to them. Thanks to Pure Options. Go to pureoptions.com. If you go into any of their stores by the 8th, register to win $1,000. Some great bundles right now for March Madness as well. Again, download the app. Go to pureoptions.com to find out their location information throughout Michigan. We appreciate Front 43 and Cask & Company. Great place to watch games. The OG of Couch and the Roof sponsors, as Jason likes to say. And we appreciate all of you. Midtown Brewing Company as well. And we'll be back Friday. Get into some Groovy Donut Twitter questions. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch and the Roof.